Hey everybody, welcome back to the layout. Got enough done here for another layout update, and there's been some pretty interesting developments over the last couple of months, as you might have seen in previous videos, but the first big change is starting right here in Geneva Yard, so let's hop into it. So the first big change, as you're seeing here in a closer view, is the ballast in Geneva Yard has actually been completely redone. We got rid of all of the Woodland Scenics walnut shell ballast, and it's now been replaced with a combination of Arizona Rock and Mineral and Scenic Express ballast. So real stone is now down in the yard, and I am over the moon with how this looks compared to the Woodland Scenic stuff. I did not realize how much I disliked that Woodland Scenic stuff until I had this stuff down. But unfortunately, it was just giving far too many problems for my liking. It didn't seem to matter how much glue I put down on the Woodland Scenics glue, or on the Woodland Scenics ballast. It didn't seem to want to stick, and it was getting all in the turnouts, causing all sorts of reliability issues. And with the big op session coming up for the Northeast Regional NMRA Convention, when it's here in Rochester towards the end of this month, I wanted to make sure that the rest of the layout, or that the whole layout, was relatively bulletproof. And this was a big part of making sure that happened. And so now, not only is it cosmetically looking significantly better, but it's operating a lot better too. I've done some extensive testing. Turnouts are working a lot more reliably than they did. Everything's all cleaned up and tidy, and all sorts of reliable power on each of the tracks. But you'll also notice not only is it cosmetically looking different, but functionally it's also looking a little bit different. And that's because of some operator feedback and my own ponderings, I decided to go ahead and put in just a single stub-ended track here on the end of the yard. There's a couple of different reasons for this. I do have prototype justification for it, technically. The real Geneva Yard does have a single stub-end track just at the bottom of their yard ladder. So it's not unrealistic. The thing that is unrealistic is I now have an additional total track that the prototype does not have. But I started kind of doing a little bit of math with the Geneva Yard I have here on my layout and the real Geneva Yard, and I went on Google Earth and started measuring each of the tracks that's in the real Geneva Yard, and then compared it, scaled down to what I've got here for track. And it turns out that I really only had about 30% of the total capacity of the prototype Geneva Yard. And while I don't necessarily need the full capacity of Geneva Yard, I definitely wanted a little bit more than I had. Some of the operators that I've had on the layout were expressing sentiments that the yard was feeling a little bit more cramped than they would have liked. I've since now added this track, and there's a couple of changes operationally that I'm going to try to make to hopefully make things feel a little bit less cramped. But with the addition of the stub end track, which is again per the prototype, I now have about 40% capacity per the actual prototype Geneva Yard. And that makes sense because I actually run my trains on average, and again that average can really vary, but I run them on average about 40% of total length for all of the prototype trains out of Geneva Yard. So 40% yard capacity makes sense for 40% of prototype train length. So everything's working great. So I'll just take you on a quick little flyover view so you can kind of see a little bit more of the close-up detail here in Geneva Yard. You'll see that there's definitely been some tie weathering done just to kind of variate the look of the ties. And then I've gone through the airbrush in about 3 or 4 different colors just to kind of vary the ballast color. Kind of got a little low point here that I'm trying to show might have been a puddle that's kind of drying out at this point in the early morning and that sort of thing. A little bit more ballast work done on top of the ballast that was back at Suburban Propane as well. But overall, just a lot cleaner looking yard, a lot more realistic looking yard than the Woodland Scenics provided, and I'm really happy with it. We've got the number 40 ballast, I believe it is, in the gauge itself and then surrounding it, and then we've got number 50, which is a finer blend on the outside of all of the tracks, which I think kind of makes it look. I think the look is pretty good. I like the way this looks compared to just using the same ballast size throughout. So yeah, like I said, happy with the results. Yep, that's right. In the spirit of bulletproofing my operations, we've now got keep alives in 7 out of the 9 Finger Lakes painted locomotives, or Finger Lakes owned locomotives on the layout. And that leaves just 5 total units on the whole layout that don't have keep alives. The 2 CEFX SD45 car bodies and 2 new run Finger Lakes B23-7s. The new runs from Atlas have just a little bit different of an interior setup, so I didn't get those 2 keep alive installed just yet, but eventually I'll be doing so. And then just a single Atlas Norfolk Southern GP38 down there is the only other thing that now does not have a keep alive in it. And really, this allows me to set up my ops in a way that allows me to not have to rely on anything that's not got to keep alive. I can kind of hide the 2 Finger Lakes Jeeps in the middle of or B23s, not Jeeps, excuse me, in the middle of a 3 locomotive consist, and have 2 keep alive units on the end. And in theory, you really shouldn't even notice that that there's no that there's any sort of power drops or anything, because like I've said in previous videos, you know, I clean my track very thoroughly before each op session, but it never fails. Inevitably, there always seems to be some sort of power loss issue somewhere where I've missed just a little bit of dirty track or something along those lines. So all these keep alives are in an effort to ensure that when I miss a spot of track, it's not the end of the world as far as the locomotives are concerned. All right, so we're back over here at Himrod Junction again, and you might be wondering what's even different about this scene if you haven't seen the last video that I posted on the channel. The difference here is actually that the turnout here is a number 6 switch now instead of a number 4. I went in and did a bunch of reworking track over the last couple of weeks, and this was a place where, unfortunately, after I did all the scenery work here, I had some issues pop up at the last op session with some derailments happening on the number 4 that was installed here. I was just trying to adjust the number 4 that was in there, and I ended up breaking the number 4. So when I pulled it out, I decided I might as well just go ahead and realign everything so that I could just put a number 6 in there. Unfortunately, it's too small of a spot to have a number 8 in there. Otherwise, I would have gone that route. But the number 6 is working very reliably now, so I'm very happy about all of that. And the other part of the last video on the channel, again, if you haven't watched that, I would encourage you to go ahead and do that, but I'll swing around here and you'll see the other difference. So this is the Geneva Industrial Complex. There's a big difference here that may not be noticeable right off the bat, but we've actually gone ahead and completely changed the orientation of track here. We've got a curved turnout out here, and then the main line is actually on the exterior of what is now the complex siding, rather than the main. So what this basically did is allowed me to bring the main out and away from all of the turnouts that are in the Geneva Industrial Complex. Again, allowing for a lot more reliable operations, especially for train GC2 as it heads out. It doesn't have to worry about getting stuck on all of these turnouts. If somebody forgets to line and lock normal or anything like that. And it also allows the Geneva yard job that comes out here to have a runaround long enough to run around its full train rather than just 2 or 3 cars at a time. So this should really significantly enhance the operators' quality of life when they're out on the Geneva Industrial Complex job. Well, that's all for this layout update. Like I said, a lot of big progress here. Maybe not quite as exciting as the last layout update with all of the big scenery work that got done. But if you stuck around for the whole thing, I still really appreciate you watching. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below. I'm eager to hear what everybody thinks about these changes, and hope to see you again in the next one. Take care, everybody.